All right, this is more on the DOP, disappearing objects phenomenon. Um, I've spent a lot of time on this now. As I work, I pay more attention to where my tools are going. As I'm standing there, I actually find that you could set a tool down and it completely disappears. Now, it doesn't go into a fourth dimension or anything like that. What happens is, now in my case, I work on different radios. Now, this radio is kind of heavy. I have it on a certain position on the bench because I only have so much square footage on the bench, and I have a power supply jury rigged to run the radio. So this is the space I put the tools down. Now, at some point, I lost my favorite tweezers. I needed these tweezers because they got grippers on them. Now, here's my other set. This doesn't work as good. It doesn't grip. And knowing I have these in my hand, but I can't find those, it becomes very frustrating. Now, what I do is I stop what I'm doing and I relax and I go looking. Now, right now you see a bunch of tools here. But as I'm working, I'm bringing them in. And what happens is they're slowly working their way under the radio. Now, if you're standing looking straight down and you say you have this tool here, and this tool, let's see if we're in the frame, this tool can roll very easily. And look at this. You try to make that tool roll, it won't roll. But trust me, when you're working, you'll set something down like this, and it will hit this. This will go under there. And now when you're looking down, and in the position I'm in, I got the fish tank on my right-hand side. It's very limited. So now that tool's gone to Never Never Land. Use the tweezers. Get out the cutters. And when you put the cutters down, you hit this thing, and you move them. You're afraid they're going to fall off the bench, so you go like this. Now the tweezers are gone. That's when I just had it. Okay. Now, just had it falls into two categories. You actually just had it, and you set it down, and it either fell off the bench this way, from in the frame. It fell off the bench. It hit, in my case, a rug, or in your case, you might have a cement floor, and it does a bounce. And you didn't hear it drop. It's not on the bench. You clean the bench up, you won't find it. That's the first category. Second category is you accidentally, as you keep adding tools here as you're doing a process, they're going under the radio. You standing where you are, looking down, you will not see that tool. Now, there's another category. You're working on the radio, and I tell you, this happened to me a lot. I hear the mailman come, and I look out the window, and I have a flag on my mailbox. And if I hear the mailman, I look, I can see the flag. I have a flag that goes down for mail, and then there's another flag you put on for the mailman to come get the mail. Well, anyway, I look out and I see the flag down, and that distracts me. Now, I've actually had a tool in my hand, or my glasses. That's the other thing, you lose your glasses. You have your glasses on, and you might have a tool in your hand, and you walk down, and you realize you got the glasses still on, and you set them down in the kitchen. So two floors in the house. You take the glasses off, you put them in the kitchen, or the tool in your hand, and you set it down in the kitchen. You go find your shoes, and now my shoes are in the same spot all the time. I won't go into that story where I lost a pair of shoes, and somebody bumped them under a couch in the rec room. I didn't put them under the couch; they got bumped. Now, maybe my mother was vacuuming. She hit the shoes. And when I could not find those shoes, I had to go buy a new pair of shoes. So anyway, so now you got either your eyeglasses or your tool there, and you find your shoes. You go outside, you get your mail, you come in, you're reading it, and then you go back up to the second floor, and you're working on the project. And it takes a few minutes before you realize you need your glasses, and they're not there. And you tear the room apart. Look, if they're downstairs, you're not going to find them. The same with the tool. If you had a tool in your hand, it's downstairs, you're not going to find it. These are the things I learned to think back. Oh, I went to get the mail. That's when I'm paying attention to what I'm actually doing, because things started disappearing and it was getting worse. And it's because I'm becoming older. I'm not as sharp. My memory's still good. I can remember I went out to the mail. And then there's a trick of, perspective of view, but anyway, in other words, when I stand here and look down at this radio, I don't see under here. I don't see that. You only see that the tools disappear. So you think it might have went off the edge. It didn't. It's underneath. Every radio I work on has a vortex where stuff goes down in it and it gets lost. And I've been very careful. But there's a downside to all this. When I'm working with my tools, I don't enjoy it anymore. Because if you're worrying about where the tools are, you're not. It's just. I created a problem with this disappearing object phenomenon. Because when I first read about it, I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I do realize that when I do lose a tool, you become frustrated. I just had it. Where the hell did it go? Like I told you the one time, several times I did this. Guy would call me up, and he needed a certain facts or something out of a book. I go get the book. I put my favorite file in there, or my favorite tweezers in the book to hold the page. And I'd walk upstairs with the book and put it on the kitchen table and call him. These people, so I would call him. One guy did it to me twice. Actually did it to myself. So I call him, oh no, I already got the information. I don't need it. So now you grab the book and you put the book away. But meanwhile, your favorite file, your favorite tweezers are inside that book. So no matter what you clean up, that part is missing. Now, one time I had a favorite file or a favorite pick. I think it was the scribe. And I had all these pieces of metal out on the bench. And when I cleaned the bench up, the little scribe went in the bin with the other pieces of metal, and I put it away. That was the first time I lost the scribe. The first time I lost the scribe was in the book, and the second time was in the part. I sat in a chair in the living room, and I went step by step what I had worked on that day, and then I realized that my favorite scribe, and I've shown you this thing many times. This thing. Let me make sure I'm in the frame. I should do this a different way, but I don't have the room in it. This is just an old dental pick, but it's solid. And my father ground down the edge to make a scribe out of it. And this got put away, and I lost it for months. And I went and bought another one. I've told you the story. And it was in a book as a marker to help somebody else. And that happened more than once. And then over the years, of course, we all lose things. You're working on the bench, and in some cases it was ball bearings, and you set it down on the bench, and it just rolls across the bench, down the back, hits the floor, goes into the fourth dimension. Now, in my cellar, I had a partially finished basement, and then one day I realized the footer, what they call them, footers? Well, anyway, the 2x4 that runs along the floor, it's bolted into the floor. And I put a sharp edge in there, like a ruler, very fine ruler, under that 2x4. And I did a motion in which anything that's under there, I'm going to bring it out. I found all kinds of stuff that disappeared in my childhood under that rim or that edge of that 2x4. 2x4, it's bolted to the floor, but in one spot it just warped up a little bit. Well, things that would drop would go under that. And then one day I'm like, you know what? I wonder if anything unbelievable what was under there. Now, this one guy just said that he keeps losing stuff over and over and over. And that's what was happening to me. It was getting worse. And then I read about it. And a lot of the things comes to, you put something away. You buy something brand new. This is if there's, first of all, you can't have anybody else in the house with you. No cats, no dogs. No klepto friends. All right? It's just you and the dwelling. And you bring something home and you set it down. And then when you come back for it later, it's missing. Now, It could still be there, and you put something on top of it. You could have bumped it. It rolled off the table or wherever it was. You look down behind stuff. Now, if you got a dog or cat, sometimes they'll just grab something because it's got your scent on it, and they'll take it somewhere and play with it. And then one day when you're vacuuming the couch, you hear something get caught in the vacuum cleaner, and you pull it out, and there's the thing, because the cat smelled your hand on that unit, and he took it on you. But there things if you stay with it, you will find it. And the only thing I told you the items that I lost. One I actually figured out. I had this sound tube, and you had to charge it, and I charged it with probably one of them telephone chargers, a cell phone charger, and it could be charged with that, or it could be charged with this other plug. And the second time I went to charge it, I didn't use the cell phone charger. In my mind, I wanted that 6-volt plug in there, and I went looking for that. It drove me nuts. I couldn't find it because I didn't have one. I built another one, but at some point I said, you know what? The first time I charged that sound tube, I used a cell phone adapter, and I'm like, son of a bitch. So that was a thing I thought I lost in the house and I could not find. Now the other thing was, I went in. It might have been Harbor Freight, or it might have been Kmart before it closed, and I went over, and they had a giant roll of real duct tape, and it was large. And I said to the guy, I said, I'm going to buy enough duct tape for the rest of my life. So I brought that roll home. When I went to use that roll, I used it maybe once or twice. I think somebody clipped it on my yard sale. I had it out there. You put up little signs. And then after I did the yard sale, put everything away, I couldn't. Or it was in a box, and I didn't look good enough, and I threw the box out after the yard sale, and I threw the duct tape out. Those are the two things I thought. One thing I figured out what was it. And way back, I used to have this, I don't know if it was a Tupperware brush, Rubbermaid. It was a Rubbermaid brush, and it's for when you're washing dishes. And one day I went to look for it, and it's gone. And I looked all through the house because I had a cat. And sometimes the cat would take the weirdest things, and it would play with it. And I checked all this area, couldn't find it. But finally, one day I was sitting there, or one day I'm working with the new brush, and the bristles start coming out. And right away, my reaction was to throw the brush away, because I don't want those bristles getting down into the sink and clogging the sink. As I'm doing that, I realized that Rubbermaid, what did I say, Rubbermaid? Yeah, Rubbermaid bristle brush had gone bad the same way, and I threw it out. And sometimes you do an action that's so minuscule, so the brush starts losing its bristles, you throw it out, and you say to yourself, I gotta get another brush. But a couple days later, you look for that brush, and yours is missing. You don't remember making the quick decision to throw it out. Now, my father, I think he was getting Alzheimer's, or he had Alzheimer's. He would, every time he went out, he kept saying to me, I need Band-Aids. He insisted on buying Band-Aids. And when he got home and put the Band-Aids away in the closet, there would be other boxes of Band-Aids. He could not remember that he bought Band-Aids. He'd always remember that he thought he needed Band-Aids. He did that with several things. Oh, and the other thing he did, which that's why I think he had Alzheimer's. One day we're sitting, and he says, I took the roll of film that was in the dresser to be developed. I'm like, what roll of film? We had an SX81. It flips open. It was a camera that made instant photos. I think it was. It was Kodak, right? Yeah. They infringed on the patent for the other one. I can't remember. But anyway, what my father was doing, he was buying rolls of film for his own camera, putting them away, and then when he saw it, he goes, oh, that needs to get developed. And then he's coming back and telling me that the developer don't know what they're doing because they keep telling him there's nothing on the film. I didn't catch that. I caught it sort of when I'm living here. And then one time, he went to reverse the film. After you shoot a 35 millimeter camera, you have to rewind the film, then take it out. Well, he opened the camera up, and the film just spilled out. He wrapped it around the camera. He handed it to me. He says, "Can you untangle this?" So I untangled it. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I got to go get it developed." I said, "There won't be anything on that film. You exposed it to light." He would not believe me. So looking back, he was going. And that's why when I start losing stuff, I start worrying. But if you're under a lot of stress and you're trying to fix something, and in my case, I'm working on this radio, it's very hard to get down in to work on the wires. It just, I'm almost done. This is my last radio. These radios weren't made to be repaired. So as I'm working, I have all these tools to get in and twist the wire around another wire in order to solder it. And well, anyway, I lost one of that tweezers I was showing you. And I said, and I looked under the radio and I couldn't see it. It went that far back under the radio. Now I was just showing you, and the reason how it can get so far back, is it even under there now? Yeah. All right. So every tool you put down here, all right, you keep doing that. You don't even realize you're doing that. You know, as you're working, and when it's doing it to you, it does it a lot easier than when you're trying to simulate it. That's the other thing. When something, I have carpet in this room. I will take something and drop it 5 times in a row, and it doesn't bounce at all. But when you lose it, it bounces like you can't believe. And I've made myself crazy over this disappearing objects phenomenon because it's very frustrating when you're older. You don't have the patience. You're working on something that's not meant to be repaired. And then you're misplacing the tools within 1.5 feet. And that's what's so amazing, where something goes. Now, I showed you the one screw on one of the videos. There's little tiny holes in the bench. And of course, the one screw, when I dropped it, it didn't go off the bench into the floor where I thought it did. It dropped into one of the holes. And I found that little sucker. But in other words, the first thing I do is I take a break and I think about it. Did I leave the room? You know, and stuff like that. But the worst times I ever lost my glasses was I had them on and they're for up close. And I walked down the flight of stairs to go to the mailbox or put the garbage out or bring the garbage pails back in. I took them off. I put them in the kitchen. I went outside, brought the garbage in or the mail, took care of that, went back upstairs, totally forgot that I went out of the house. And the reason is it's such a nothing thing during the day. It doesn't really register because you've done it so many times. You do it, you forget about it. So anyway, I looked for those glasses, and I had another new pair, and I didn't like the new pair because the new pair was a little stronger, and I really didn't like it. And then finally, at one point, I went to get a snack. I went downstairs, and as I'm in the kitchen, I turn and I look, and there's the glasses. And then I realized, okay, I came down here. Why did I come down here? Okay, I went outside and got the mail or got the garbage can. But there are certain habits you form that cause things to disappear. It's like if you have a wife, you're working on something, and she gives you a call, and you go there to help her out, and you leave a tool there, and she sees it, she puts it away in the junk drawer, wherever. Just an instinct. Well, what's that? I'll put that here. And now you're looking for it, and then she may not even remember that she picked it up and put it in the junk drawer. My father, he spent a lot of time going through the junk drawer because he couldn't find a tool. And my mother would sit there and he goes, you know, he has to clean his entire workshop in order to find something. And it was absolutely true. And at one point, I moved in with him in the workshop, and I started organizing. He did not like that. So I moved back to my other corner of the cellar. And it was something, the way people handle things. But I told you that one time he did some work outside with this bench. He had this bench and his tools. And instead of carrying them back to the cellar, he put them in his trunk of his car. And I'm outside helping him. And a week later, he gets the part he's waiting for to fix something. And he starts bothering me. I'm in my workshop. Can I borrow this? Can I borrow? I said, it's out in the trunk of your car. He would not go out there. Well, what would it be doing in the trunk of the car? My father was a really nice guy, but he could double down and he could be a dunce. And you'd say, it's in the trunk of the car. And then here, I actually tell him what he was working on when he had those tools. He's just staring at me like I'm crazy. But back then I had this super great memory. I had friends of mine that would come over and ring the back doorbell. I'm not kidding you. Ring the back doorbell and hold up a piece of gasket material. And he goes, I can't get this at the motorcycle place. You know, he's telling me it's his motorcycle. I don't have a motorcycle. He's holding this piece of gasket material. And he says, I went to all the motorcycle places. They've never seen this before. What's going on? I said, remember the boat you had? He has to think about it. The boat. Yeah, the boat you had. The inboard, outboard motor unit, one that helped change the gasket, and telling him everything about it. I said, the place, when you went to get parts for the boat, you walked around and you saw a reel of this gasket material. And what it goes around is I think it would be called the instrument cluster with the speedometer in it and maybe two switches. Key switch sits up on the Harley. Well, a lot of the ones, the steel sits on the body of the bike. There's no gasket. Well, he found this material that you could put it around that edge, and then when you push the cluster down and tighten it with the screws, it looked really nice. There was no gap. And he's like, oh man, you're right. I said, yeah. I said, what are you doing coming over here and asking me where you got it? He goes, I knew you would remember. And I said, yeah, I asked you where you got it because I do that. Whenever I see a material that can be used for other projects, I ask the person, where did you get it? And I saw it. I forgot that I did that because I already knew that gasket material could be bought at the boat place. I don't remember everything. And then after he mentions, I said, I know I learned it from you. I saw you use it on the Harley, and that's the way that went. But I used to have this incredibly good memory. But now, as you get older, your memory's not as good. You get distracted, you get frustrated. Everything goes through your head. While you're working on the radio, you realize that this isn't fun anymore. You're trying to get done, and then all of a sudden, the tweezers that you need right now have disappeared. They disappeared. They're gone. I'm standing there. Where did they go? They were just here. Of course, they're under here, and I get stuck using this pair, which I don't really like. This pair is good for retrieval. That other pair there, I think that came in a Vodko set. This is from my dad's TV repair shop. This was in a plastic pouch with Vodko tools. I think that was the name of the tools. And certain things, I have to have this. I have to have these in my hand to work on it. And I have to have this scribe. I have other scribes, but I have to have this one. That's just the way I'm starting. I'm getting really, really finicky. I don't have patience. But this one guy just came in, and he said that his stuff is disappearing. It's driving him nuts. Now, I said, first of all, you can't have anybody else in the house. No cats, no dogs. Then you zero in on, you normally put something in this place, but for some reason, you change the location where you're going to put something. And then you don't remember that. You remember the first location. You say to yourself, I'm going to put this away in the same spot. But then something happens and you change your mind. But your brain remembers the first spot. It doesn't remember the new spot. Right? It's like I told you, there are certain people that have really bad memories. And the one guy lived on my block, and he would stand out there for a half hour trying to unravel the line cord. And I walked down there, and he goes, "This drives me nuts." I said, "I'll get you a wrap thing." I showed him mine. I bought it for him. I gave it to him. It's a piece of plastic. It hangs up, and you wrap your line cord around it. It keeps it from tangling. And you can unravel what you need and leave the rest on this. It's a plastic frame. So I'm over there, and I say something like, "Oh, you didn't use it yet." He walks over to me, he goes, "I don't know what that's for." I gave him that. There was a whole rigmarole, but he didn't. That's when I realized he had a brain like a sieve, or a memory like a sieve. And then he would tell you something, and then you go get the correction in the paper, documented. You'd show it to him. 6 months later, he'd be telling the story the same way again. You couldn't fix him. That's how bad he was. And he died from some type of brain problem, but which makes all sense now. At a certain age, he started getting wacky. And I know myself, old age makes you weird. And working on something, each radio I bought is getting harder to work on. And your patience wear out as you get older. In this case, any one of these capacitors could be bad. I found a resistor that was 500 ohms instead of 5,000. Here it is here. It's green, red, red. So it should be, actually it looks gray now. It looks green there. Well, anyway, it's supposed to be 5.2K, and it's reading 500 ohms. And that's in the oscillator section. It doesn't work now. I'm almost finished. One of the metal can caps was bad. There's 3.1s in there, and I'm on the verge of, or I'm almost done. But if you just took that can out, put a new one in, and resoldered the wires, I'd be done. But instead, I have to do something else, and it's very frustrating. And radios is my favorite hobby, and I'm trying to find another hobby that's nicer, easier, more fun. But I don't seem to be able to do it. But I just wanted to go over the disappearing objects phenomenon. And you can't have anybody else in the house with you. You can't. My mother, I would come in to change my clothes or something, and I would set something on the countertop in the kitchen. And I'd come back with my clothes changed, and I'd say, "Where's that light bulb that was just on the counter?" "Oh, I threw that out." My mother was a real pain. Anything of hers, she never threw out. Anything of yours, you better be careful. And then one time, my dad's dome light in the car was stuck on. And he didn't know how to fix it. And it was freezing cold out. I said, "Look," I said, "we'll take the bulb out for now. And the first warm day, I'll fix it for you." So he takes the dome light out, takes the dome cover off, takes the dome bulb out. And I didn't see it. I don't know what the dome bulb looks like in his car. It was a Chevy Nova. The bulb turned out to be the same as mine. But the dome bulb never really burns out. They get stuck on. You have to turn that switch that's in the metal by the door. Anyway, that's where the problem is. And it grounds out to come on. That switch grounds it, makes it come on. The positive goes to the other side of the bulb. I used to fix them all the time. So anyway, my father takes the dome bulb out. He puts it in the junk drawer. So a couple years later, or whatever, later, and I find this bulb in there. I'm like, my father's the first one to go, "I never seen that before." You got to know it's his bulb. But I couldn't prove it. And it looks like a fuse. And I'm thinking the vacuum cleaner, I'm going through everything. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Well, one day I was taking mine over in to trade it in. And my friend starts taking parts off the car to be funny. And we're driving along, and I tell you, we were in Little Falls. And he pulls the cover off the dome light, and I see that freaking light bulb in there. And I start going crazy. And he didn't understand what I was saying. But I said, "That's the bulb we found in the junk drawer." And then right away, I knew it was from my father's car. So I went home that night, and I said, "You were supposed to remind me to fix the dome light." "What dome light?" See, as he got older, he got really wacky. He goes, "My dome light works." I said, "Give me the keys of your car." "Well, give me the keys to your car." So I made sure the dome light didn't work. And then I fixed it for him. "Well, I don't remember." Yeah, that was a lot of it. My father, as he got older, he only cared about certain things. And his memory got really bad. And I think it was Alzheimer's. He didn't live long enough to get full Alzheimer's. But anyway, I think 2 of his sisters got it. Well, anyway, Alzheimer's wasn't on my mother's side of the family. None of them went that way. They went other ways. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to cover DOP. Like I said, you can't have anybody else in the house with you. You can have a person to pick stuff up, I don't know what that is, and they flip it in the garbage on you. And then, like I said, a cat or a dog, if they smell your scent on something, they'll take it and go play with it, and maybe chew it up enough where they can swallow it, and you'll never get it. I think that's it. All right, that's it.